what's going on, everybody? It's ETAPRIME back here again. Today we're going to be taking this $99 iPhone SE that I recently picked up at my local Walmart and turning it into a gaming console. Now in this video we're actually going to be taking a look at some handheld gaming on it, and we're also going to be connecting this to a larger display for big screen gaming. So what I have here is the Straight Talk version of the 2022 iPhone SE. If you're not familiar with Straight Talk, basically it's a pay-as-you-go or a prepaid cell phone service. But I'm not going to be activating this at all. It's actually just going to be running on Wi-Fi. And these were recently on sale at my local Walmart for $99. As soon as I saw it, I knew I had to pick it up to see if we could get some gaming out of the way on this. And of course, when it comes to the iPhone SE, a lot of people overlook these because it is a smaller device. It's only got a 4.7-inch display, but we've got the A15 CPU, and for $99, this has definitely beaten many of the other $99 Android devices on the market when it comes to raw performance, so I figured we'd go ahead and see what we could do with it. Now, there's a couple ways to go about this. Obviously, you could set this up as a handheld gaming device. I'm going to be using the backbone controller, and remember, with the newer iPhones coming out, the iPhone 15 and above, they are using USB Type-C. This still uses that Lightning connector, and there's a chance that these Lightning backbone controllers will be going on sale soon, so definitely keep an eye out. But the other thing we're going to be doing here is actually connecting this SE over to a larger display. And unfortunately, with this iPhone, you can't just plug it into an HDMI connector. You need a specific Lightning to HDMI adapter. You can pick one of these up pretty cheap over on Amazon, and they will output 1080p 60 Hz. So we've actually got quite a bit to test, but before we get into it, I do want to mention that the sponsor of today's video is Ridge, and they recently partnered up with Hennessy. They've released some amazing looking new wallets. They're Hennessy branded. They've also got the Ridge key case, Hennessy branded again. And now they also offer these AirTag attachments for your wallet. And this is something that comes in really handy for me. I'm always misplacing my wallet, especially in the house. And I just happen to be using their carbon version, but they also offer a white version over on their website. And obviously, with the new AirTag attachment from Ridge, you can always track it from your phone. Ridge wallets are designed with RFID blocking materials, and the Ridge key cases can hold up to 6 keys. And with this, you don't have to worry about those keys jingling around in your pocket. Everything's nice and secure. But that's not it, because without spending $1, you can actually head over to the website for a chance to win a brand new upgraded Hennessy Ford Bronco, or $75,000 if you prefer cash. You get one bonus entry for every $1 you spend on the site, and custom Hennessy branded products come with up to 1,000 entries for the giveaway. And remember, if you use my link, ridge.com/ETAPRIME, you get 10 bonus entries for the giveaway. And if you use my code ETAPRIME, you get 10% off as well. So if you've been considering getting a Ridge, now is the best time. So when it comes to the specs of the 2022 iPhone SE, doesn't look like much on paper. We've got the Apple A15 6-core CPU, 2 cores running at 2.65 gigahertz and 4 cores running at 1.8. We've also got a 4-core Apple GPU and 3 gigabytes of RAM. Now, the first thing I wanted to take a look at were just a few benchmarks that I ran on this device. And first up, we've got Geekbench 6, single core 2,369, multi 5,979. Now, just taking a look at the Galaxy S23 with the Snapdragon 8 Gen 1, you can see when it comes to CPU performance, the A15 is beating that chip out by quite a bit in single and multi. But when it comes to GPU performance, the 8 Gen 1 does have a leg up. On the iPhone SE, we got a total score of 2,301, and on the Galaxy S23 Ultra with the Snapdragon 8 Gen 1, 3,786. And the final benchmark I ran was just AN22 for an overall score. On the iPhone SE, 1,094,455, and on the S23 Ultra, 1,216,893. And really, it's coming down to that higher GPU score over on that Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 in the S23 Ultra. I was actually really surprised that this A15 and the SE kept up as well as it could with that Snapdragon 8 Gen 1. And given the fact that I only paid $99 for this is pretty impressive. So whenever I'm gaming on any kind of phone, be it Android or an iPhone, I love having a controller. I personally hate touch controls, so I'm using the Backbone 1. But remember, you can always connect an Xbox controller over Bluetooth. You can use a PS4 controller, PS5, and even Switch controllers work with the iPhone and the latest iOS 16 updates. Now, the big elephant in the room is going to be emulation. And there's always ways to install emulators on our iPhone. You can use AltStore, that way you don't have to jailbreak anything. You're going to use your own iCloud account to go ahead and sideload a few apps here and there. This will emulate GameCube at full speed. It actually works really well on the A15, but Android is just going to be so much easier for emulation. You can get right on Google Play and install anything you want there. And not to mention, a lot of the great Android phones out there do support a micro SD card, so we can easily upgrade that storage to hold more ROMs and more games in general. But with the iPhone, you can definitely get some gaming out of the way. There's a ton of games on iOS that do support controllers natively, and all of the Apple Arcade games will support controllers. Here we have Call of Duty Mobile. I maxed out here from the settings, and unfortunately it'll only run it up to 60 Hz on this display because we've only got a 60 Hz display with this iPhone SE. And obviously in handheld mode, it's working out really well. There's a lot of games that are going to run great here, but I personally like plugging this into a larger display. And it's actually pretty easy. I'm going to be using a wireless Xbox controller connected over Bluetooth to this iPhone SE. And we've also got that Lightning to HDMI adapter. Basically, Lightning port directly to the phone. We've got HDMI out and power in. So we're going to plug it right in here to my monitor. And yeah, you could plug this into a larger TV if you wanted to. I've just got my gaming monitor already set up, ready to go. And since we're using a wired connection, we've got very minimal input latency. So even playing fighting games on here against opponents works out really well. The only downside I've run into when using an iPhone on a larger display is our home screen just won't go landscape. So we're going to be in portrait mode there, but as soon as we start up a game, it's going to go landscape for us. And when I start this game up, you might notice we do have a black border around the screen, and that's because the iPhone's aspect ratio is not the same as our monitor. Most monitors and TVs on the market are going to be 16:9. Unfortunately, it's just not going to match up. But if you take a look at the iPhone screen down below the bigger display, we do have much more room to work with here. And I gotta say, it does look pretty good on this big display. So this is supposedly 1080p 60 Hz. It definitely feels like 60 Hz and looks like 1080p. I mean, we've got a pretty sharp picture here. And using this Bluetooth controller actually works really well with the iPhone. Here's an Apple Arcade game, Warped Kart Racers, and like I mentioned, all of the Apple Arcade games will support a controller. So if you wanted to use your Xbox controller, not a problem at all. I also wanted to show you what Call of Duty Mobile looked like on a bigger display. We did test it on the internal display, but playing it here just gives us a lot more room to work with, and I actually enjoy playing it on a bigger display. Kind of feels like a console game. Obviously, it's not going to look as good as the Xbox One or an RTX 4090, but you could definitely have some fun with this game. But the final native iOS game that I wanted to take a look at was Genshin Impact, and even this iPhone SE can run this game at high 60 FPS. This does struggle at high 60 FPS on the Snapdragon 8 Gen 1. There's just a lot more optimizations that have gone into the iOS version from the developers. And another thing you might notice is we've got native controller support. I didn't have to use any kind of third-party app or anything like that to play Genshin Impact with this controller on the iPhone. It just works. You have to go into the settings, swap it from touch to controller, and you're good to go. There are hundreds of native iOS games that'll work with a controller, and they all look pretty good on a bigger display. This game actually looks really awesome at high 60 FPS, running it on this monitor here. Might be a little bright for my camera, but overall, it's very enjoyable. Another thing I wanted to test out was some cloud gaming, and I just went with Xbox Cloud Gaming. You could also go with GeForce Now if you want to. Forza Horizon 5, and of course with cloud gaming you will have some input latency, and then on top of our Bluetooth input there's going to be a little bit more. It's not horrible, but the one thing I don't like about running this Xbox Cloud Gaming on a bigger display from any kind of phone is just the graphical deterioration. It already has a little bit when you're running it on the built-in screen, so kind of stretching it out a bit more doesn't make it look any better. And the final thing I wanted to show off here was Steam Link. So with the newest update of Steam Link, we actually have a new option here. So if we go to streaming, we've got enhanced 1080p mode. So this is a bit different from cloud gaming because I'm actually going to be streaming from my own gaming PC in the house. So if I had my PC, let's say in the office, and I wanted to play on my big screen out in the living room, I could hook this up. And anytime I'm using Steam Link from my gaming PC, that's always got a wired Ethernet connection. I just personally like having it set up that way. But as long as you have a decent router, you should have a pretty good time with this. We're going to go with Cyberpunk 2077. Right now, my gaming PC is doing all of the heavy lifting. We're running Cyberpunk 2077 at 1080p Ultra over there and just streaming it over to the iPhone. Doesn't take much power to do this, and lower-end devices can handle it quite well. But yeah, I've actually had a really good time with iOS and Steam Link. I've tested it out on a couple different iPads and things like that. Kind of one of my favorite things to do with these iPhones and iPads. So yeah, I do think that you can turn one of these cheap prepaid iPhone SEs into a little bit of a gaming console. It actually worked out much better than I thought it would. Of course, gaming on the built-in 4.7-inch screen isn't for everybody, but I really do like connecting these to a larger monitor. It just makes for a better experience in my opinion. So that's going to wrap it up for this video. I really appreciate you watching. I personally wouldn't run out and buy one of these specifically for this use case scenario, but if you're upgrading from an older iPhone and they're not going to give you much at all for your SE, you could always turn it into something else. If you're interested in seeing how this thing can handle PSP, GameCube, and a few other emulators, let me know down below. I can make another video. And like always, thanks for watching.